Many of my students successfully cracked the interviews and got jobs. And I believe you can also do the same. Hello friends, as you already know, React has the most jobs in market as compared to other front-end technologies. Now to get the job and for cracking the interviews, today I am going to cover the top 10 React interview questions for candidates having 2 to 3 years of experience in React. You can also treat this video as a mock interview for your practice. Okay, just listen to the question, pause the video, then think about your own answer and then listen to my answer and compare. Okay. Hey, my name is Happy and I help candidates in cracking the React interviews by posting React career videos, interview guidance videos, and job videos. If you don't want to miss those latest videos on React, then hit the like and subscribe button. Now let's start with the first question. How React app load and display the components in browser. So this is like the summary of all the things which we have already discussed. So first, user hit the browser and request is sent to the index.html page. Then with the help of the React libraries, index.js JavaScript file is loaded in the browser. So if I will go to the VS Code, okay, and now as the application is already running, go to the browser. Okay, now if you right click and inspect here and expand this head and scroll down, here you will find the bundle.js file, okay, which is loaded by the React library. Now if you will right click and open this link in the new tab like this, and here you will search the index.js file, then see index.js file is automatically loaded with the help of the node modules folder. Okay, now if we go back to the slide, and we already know that index.html has loaded the index.js file, right? We already know this, and index.js file will render the app component inside this index.html file, right? And then the result will be set in the root element, which will then be replaced by the root element of the index.html file. So this is like the whole summary of the whole process which I already discussed, which I already explained you in the previous question. So index.html, then index.js, which will internally call the app.js and will send the response back to the index.html. That is the summary. What is a spread operator in JSX? Now we know we can pass properties from parent component to child component, right? But in real applications, we do not have just 2 parameters like this. We may have 5, 10 or 15 parameters. Or maybe we are getting a key value pair from some external data source, like from some external API. At that time, to pass these parameters in child components, we will create a props object with all the properties like this. And here you see we are using the spread operator to pass this object down to the child component. These 3 dots are nothing but the spread operator only, okay? So they are doing nothing, but internally they are just spreading, or you can say expanding these properties or any object here only, okay? So this is like a shortcut way of writing only, but internally it is the same. The way of accessing this spread operator in child component remains same as the normal properties like this, okay? So the definition is the spread operator is used to expand or spread an array or object. That's it. Alright friends, before we hit the next question, if you have not yet accepted my never give up challenge, then accept it. Make a promise and commitment to yourself. No matter how tough it gets, no matter how many rejections you will face, but you will never give up until you crack the interview. That is also my own struggle story with interviews. Accept this challenge by writing never give up in the comment section right now. Trust me, the moment you write it, you will feel an instant boost of confidence and motivation towards your goal. How to iterate over a list in JSX? What is map method? This is something related to JavaScript, but since it is very important and frequently used, that's why I am also covering it here. Let's see the use case. Suppose you have this array inside the app component. Okay, now your task is to loop through this array and then return a new array where every number is modified and multiplied by 2. Like this is the output you need. Okay, one traditional solution is to declare a new array and then use the for loop to iterate each element multiplied by 2, add the item in the new array. So that is a long way and you have to write multiple lines of code for that. Therefore, JavaScript has this map method which does the same thing but in a single line of code like this. Remember, it's a JavaScript function that can also be used in JSX. Here we will call the map method of the number list. Okay, then map method accepting a complete function as a parameter. Yes, we call it callback function when we pass a function as a parameter, right? It is also the JavaScript concept. And because this function has no name, therefore it is also an anonymous function. And it is also an arrow function because first we are accepting this number as the parameter of the function, which is accepting then one by one all the array elements in the arguments. So what is happening? The first number parameter will be 1, then 2 and 3 and so on. So after the arrow operator, we are putting the function body where we are manipulating each item in the number list by multiplying it by 2. And then these multiplied numbers will be added to a new array which will be returned by the function. Okay, great. All this is happening just inside a single line of code, and that is the beauty of this map method. Now, if you have any doubt about like the the callback function, arrow function, or anonymous functions, then you can refer my JavaScript essential session for React because there I have covered these concepts in detail. All right, the final answer is the map method allows you to iterate over an array and modify its elements using a callback function. That's it. What are the roles of the roots and root component in React Router? If you remember, while implementing routing, we first imported roots and root component from the React Router library, right? And then like this, we implemented roots and root component. Here, the roots component is just used as the root container for declaring your collection of roots, okay? Nothing else. It's just a container for multiple root components. That's it. Then the main player is the root component. Listen carefully here. The root component is used to define a route, or you can say a path, and specify the component or the element which should render when the route matches with the path. Okay, let me explain. For example, in this code, if the user enters websitename.com/about in the URL, then about component or element will be rendered in the UI or browser or DOM. Okay, so that is the job of the root component. I hope now it's 100% clear to you. And whatever I have explained, the same thing is written here if someone is interested in doing the quick revision from the book later. Here is a very short question. What are root parameters in routing? Here is the code for a root component, and here user ID is the root parameter. Basically, this parameter is some dynamic data selected by the user that will be passed to this user profile component when the user clicks on this navigation link. Okay, so the answer is root parameters in React routers are a way to pass dynamic data or values to the component as a part of the URL path. That's it. Hi friends, just a small notification. This video is part of my full course top 200 React interview questions, including topics like React hooks, Redux, Typescript, etc. All questions PDF book link is also present below in the description. So like these candidates who cracked the interviews and got offers via this course, and if you don't want to miss anything for your interviews, then you can try this course. Otherwise, no problem. Let's continue. What is the dependency array in the use effect hook? If you remember, we have this structure of the use effect hook, and the second parameter here is the array of dependencies. Dependency array, same thing, right? Dependency means a value or piece of data. When user will change this value, the whole first parameter side effect or effect function will rerun. Okay, let me show you the example in the video here. Here, the user ID is an element of the dependency array. And when we change its value, then below the data will be refetched from the API and re-rendered to the UI, meaning the effect function is rerunning on changing the element value in the dependency array, right? Great. And here is the simplest definition for the interview, which I already explained. If you want to see the code for this user ID example, complete code, then here is the complete code for that API with the user ID in the dependency array example. In short, here we are just using the use effect hook, first fetching data from external API, then in the dependency array we are putting user ID. Now whenever we are changing the user ID, that will invoke the fetch data, the effect function again, and the result will be re-rendered in the UI here. One question is why this dependency is an array, right? It can be a single value also. Now the reason is because you may have multiple dependencies, user ID, username, possible multiple items here, right? So in UI we have that user ID drop down, and on change event other UI elements are here. I will not go in the details of these UI elements because our goal here is to just understanding the dependency array, which we already understood, right? And that's the answer to this question. What are the differences between use state and use reducer hook? This question I already explained, but here I have just written few points because having some theory with us makes the whole revision very easy and fast, right? So either you can pause and read it, or you can refer from the book later for the revision purpose, okay? What are the rules or best practices for hook implementation? When using hooks in your components, you should follow some rules or best practices to implement them correctly. The first rule is hooks can only be called at the top level of a component like this, and then you can write the remaining logic of the component, okay? Not like first you are writing component code at and middle or bottom, then you are calling hook. That is wrong. Second rule is hooks can only be called directly inside the React components or React functions like this. You should not call hooks from any normal or nested JS functions other than React components, okay? Third rule is keep hooks in order and keep the order consistent in all the components. For example, if you are using same hook multiple times in one component and you want the same behavior in another component, then use the same order. Do not change the order, okay? This will create inconsistency otherwise. Great. Now here is the summary of the rules or best practices which you can revise anytime within seconds later. That's the answer. What are custom hooks? By the name only you can understand. Normally hooks are inbuilt functions provided by the React library, right? But sometimes if you are working on a very big project, there may be a need for a hook that is not provided by React, okay? So in that case, as a developer, you can create a custom hook or a function like this in any JavaScript file. And for example, this is a custom hook for managing a counter. So it is accepting one initial value parameter, which default value is 0, and this hook is basically just returning three things. And then you can use this hook in your application components. Any component you can use this hook. So that is how the custom hook can be created and can be used, and that is the short story about the custom hook. Proper definition is: custom hooks in React are JavaScript functions developed by developers to encapsulate reusable logic for their application. So if you are thinking that one piece of code is used in many places in your application, in many components, then you can put that piece of code in the custom hook and use it. That's the answer. What are component lifecycle methods? This is a very important question. We already know that there are three phases of the component lifecycle. Now each phase has some lifecycle methods that will execute in sequence. The first mounting phase has 4 lifecycle methods that will execute one by one in this sequence only. Then after mounting phase, the updating phase will execute, and here are the 5 lifecycle methods of updating phase. Again, they will execute in the same sequence. You notice here this render method is in both phases, right? Why? Because if you do any change in the component, then in the updating phase, the same render method will again execute. Okay, so that I will explain in later, but yes, they can execute multiple times render method. Finally, in the unmount phase, we have only one method which will execute at last. Now we are not going to cover all the methods because all of them are not so important. We will here cover the most important in the upcoming ones, which here I marked in the bold letters here: constructor, render, component did mount method, then component did update, and component will unmount method. Finally, here is the simplest and the easiest definition of component lifecycle, which is very easy to remember. Component lifecycle methods are special methods that get called at various stages of a component's life. And then you can name any 4 to 5 methods in your interviews and your selection is confirmed. What are constructors in class components? When to use them? As we already know, the constructor is the first method of the mounting phase of the component lifecycle, right? Now let's see the constructor code here. See, here we have used the constructor keyword to write a constructor. First thing, if you closely look at this constructor, then you can observe that this constructor structure or body is very much similar to a function only, because constructor is a function only, okay, but it is a specialized function. Why specialized? Because whenever you call this class component, this constructor example component from app.js or index.js file or from any parent component, then this constructor function will be invoked automatically. Remember, automatically. You need not to write any or call it explicitly. That's why it is a specialized function. Okay, now the question is, when should we use this constructor in our components? The constructor is used majorly for initializing the component's state or performing any setup that is mandatory before the component is rendered in the UI, browser, or DOM. Okay, for example, here we are setting the state, the data count value equal to 0 in the beginning before the rendering. After setting this, the render method will be called, which can then return the count value that has been set in the constructor only, and then only it will be displayed to you. So constructor will run definitely before rendering, remember that. Remember again, component will not load or render until the constructor code run completely. Great, that's like a brief idea about the constructor method of the lifecycle methods. And here is the definition, and then the constructor use is also written here, which I already explained. It's for later quick revision from the book if needed. All right, congratulations for completing all the questions. If you have reached here, that means you have the courage and patience required for cracking the interviews. Just don't stop here and keep rolling until you get your goal. Okay, only one recommendation from my side. If you have not started yet, then start giving interviews. As I always said, interviews are the best form of learning. Interviews help you not just in learning, but if you are selected, the reward is very, very good. Okay. And if you are not selected, then remember, you will still lose nothing. Not giving interviews is even worse than facing rejections in interviews, because not attending the exam means the opportunity is gone. Companies will hire someone else, they will not wait for you. Okay, but if you are rejected in interview, then at least you will learn new things and next time you are more prepared, right? So start giving interviews and do accept my never give up challenge until you crack the interview. Okay, accept the challenge now by writing never give up in the comment section. Finally, all the best from my side, and I will support you in your career journey by posting the interviews, careers, and the job videos continuously. Join my interview cracking community by pressing the like and subscribe button. Thank you so much.